Okay, get this. You're whipping up some apple pie, right?
Yeah.
And you reach for this spice that not only adds warmth and aroma, but could also be like a secret weapon for better health.
Sounds pretty wild, doesn't it?
Totally. And that's exactly what we're diving into today on Earth's Medicine Cabinet, the surprising health benefits of cloves.
And trust me, there's way more to this tiny spice than meets the eye.
So let's jump right in.
Well,
Um, for anyone who maybe isn't totally familiar, can you give us a quick, Cloves 101? What exactly are we even talking about here?
so cloves, they're actually the dried flower buds of the clove tree, an evergreen tree native to Indonesia.
Flower buds.
Huh.
I always thought they were some kind of seed or berry or something.
Yeah, that's a really common misunderstanding. But yeah, these little buds, they pack a punch, both in terms of flavor and their potential health benefits.
Oh, speaking of, let's talk about those nutritional benefits. I know
Never.
cloves are used in baking and hot drinks and stuff, but I never really thought of them as like a nutritional powerhouse.
You might be surprised. Cloves are a good source of fiber, vitamins, and minerals, especially manganese.
Manganese, what's so special about that?
Well, manganese is essential for a whole bunch of bodily functions, everything from brain health to bone development.
Those little cloves could actually help with strong bones. That's pretty impressive.
It is, and that's not even all the time. Cloves are also incredibly rich in antioxidants.
Okay, hold on. Let's unpack that a little. We hear about antioxidants all the time these days, but what do they actually do?
Antioxidants, think of them like little bodyguards. They protect our cells from damage caused by free radicals.
Free radicals? Those sound kind of scary.
They can be.
Uh,
Free radicals are these unstable molecules that can damage our cells and contribute to aging and all kinds of diseases.
So antioxidants basically help neutralize those troublemakers.
Exactly. And cloves are full of them, especially this potent compound called eugenol.
Eugenol. That sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's often associated with clove oil, which brings us to our myth versus reality segment.
Oh, I love this part. So what's the myth surrounding clove oil then?
Well, lots of people think clove oil is safe to just ingest. Like you might use a drop or two of peppermint oil.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Right. But here's the reality check. Clove oil is actually unsafe to take by mouth because of that high concentration of eugenol. While it's beneficial in small amounts, too much eugenol can be toxic.
That's a good point. So even though eugenol has some potential benefits, we got to be really careful with clove oil.
Absolutely. Especially when it comes to kids, ingesting even a tiny bit of clove oil can cause some seriously bad side effects.
So bottom line, clove oil is a no-go internally. What about topical applications, though?
Using clove oil topically, like on your skin, is generally considered safe, but it can irritate sensitive areas like your gums.
Got it. So stick to using whole or ground cloves in food and drinks to get those benefits safely.
Exactly. And speaking of benefits, let's dive into some of the exciting research on cloves and how they can actually impact our health.
Cool. Let's start with liver health. I read somewhere that cloves might help protect the liver. Is that true?
Yeah, that's right. Studies have shown that clove extract might improve liver function, and eugenol seems to be a big part of that.
Interesting. Do we know why eugenol might be good for the liver?
Well, the research suggests that eugenol, with its powerful antioxidant properties, could be protecting liver cells from damage caused by toxins and free radicals. It's like a shield for your liver.
That makes sense. It's pretty amazing how this one compound can have so many different effects.
It really is. And get this, early research also suggests that clove oil, or more specifically eugenol, might have anti-cancer properties.
Oh, wow. Really? That's incredible. What kind of cancer are we talking about?
Some really promising research is looking at breast cancer. Test tube studies have shown that eugenol can actually cause breast cancer cells to die off.
Wow, that's amazing.
Hmm.
But I'm guessing we need more research before we can say anything for sure.
For sure, it's still early stages, but the initial findings are definitely encouraging.
This is all so fascinating. It's like every time we learn something new about cloves, we uncover another potential benefit.
And we're only just getting started. Let's move on to another area where cloves show some real promise. Antibacterial action.
I've heard about that. Does that mean cloves could be good for oral health?
That's what some studies are suggesting. Yeah, cloves have these antimicrobial properties, which means they can actually help stop bacteria from growing.
So could they be like a natural alternative to mouthwash?
Not quite. While cloves might offer some extra protection, they're definitely not a replacement for good oral hygiene, like brushing and flossing.
Right, so think of cloves as maybe a bonus boost for oral health,
Yeah.
not a substitute for the basics.
Exactly. And while we're talking about boosting things, there's also some cool research emerging on cloves and blood sugar regulation.
Oh, yeah, I read about that. It seems like cloves could be helpful for people with prediabetes or diabetes.
There's definitely some promising evidence there. Studies have shown that cloves might help to regulate blood sugar levels and improve insulin sensitivity.
Can you break that down a little? I know insulin is important for controlling blood sugar, but I'm not sure how cloves fit into all of that.
Well, it looks like a compound in cloves called nigrosin might be the key player. Research suggests that nigrosin can actually enhance insulin function, making it more effective at moving sugar from your blood into your cells.
So basically, nigrosin helps insulin do its job better.
Exactly. And this could be a big deal for managing blood sugar levels and maybe even preventing or delaying type 2 diabetes.
This tiny spice is seriously full of surprises. I'm starting to think we should all have a jar of cloves on hand at all times.
I wouldn't argue with that. And we haven't even talked about their potential benefits for bone health or stomach ulcers yet.
Okay, well, hold on. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Before we dive into all of that, I think it's important to talk about safety and how to actually use cloves. We talked about the risks of clove oil, but are there any concerns about using whole or ground cloves?
Well, while cloves are generally considered safe when you use them in moderation as a spice, there are a couple things to remember.
Like,
Well, first of all, the FDA has approved clove buds and oil as safe food additives, so you can feel good about using them in your cooking. That's totally fine.
okay, that's good to know. But are there any potential interactions with medications we should be aware of?
Actually, yes, there are a few. Eugenol, that powerful compound we've been discussing, can potentially interact with blood clotting and blood sugar medications.
So it's always a good idea to talk to your doctor before you start adding a ton of cloves to your diet, especially if you're taking any medications.
You got it. It's always better to be safe than sorry.
This is all super insightful. It seems like cloves are kind of a double-edged sword. They're packed with potential benefits, but also come with some things to be cautious about.
That's a great way to put it. Knowledge is power, right?
Mm.
And understanding both the good and the potentially bad stuff allows us to make smart choices about how we use cloves in our lives.
Well said. Now, I'm definitely curious to hear more about those other potential benefits, especially for bone health and stomach ulcers. But I think we'll save that for the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good to me. We've covered a lot of ground already, but there's still a ton more to explore about this remarkable spice.
I can't wait. Stick around, listeners, because our journey into the world of cloves is just getting started.
You know, it's actually kind of fascinating to think that cloves, they've been used medicinally for centuries, long before modern science even started to figure out what they were all about.
It really makes you wonder, right? Like, what did ancient cultures know that we're only just now rediscovering?
Totally. Cloves have this really rich history going all the way back to the Maluku Islands, which are also known as the Spice Islands in Indonesia.
The Spice Islands. Wow, that name, it just like conjures up all these images of exotic voyages and ancient trade routes.
Oh, absolutely. Cloves were like one of the most sought after spices in the world, highly prized for their, culinary and medicinal uses.
I can only imagine how valuable these tiny little buds must have been, especially considering like how far they had to travel.
Their value was huge. They played a big role in global trade and even shaped the course of history.
It's crazy to think something so small could have such a huge impact. So, how were cloves used medicinally back then?
Well, in ancient China and Egypt, cloves were used for a whole range of ailments, everything from toothaches to digestive issues.
It seems like cloves were kind of like a universal remedy in a lot of cultures.
In a way, yeah. And it's really incredible to see how some of these traditional uses are now being confirmed by scientific research.
It's like the past and present are coming together to reveal the true potential of this, like humble little spice. So, besides their potential benefits for liver health, cancer protection, antibacterial action, and blood sugar regulation, what other areas are researchers looking into?
Well, there's some promising research that suggests cloves might play a role in promoting bone health.
Oh, yeah. We talked about manganese being important for bone health, and cloves are a good source of that. Could there be something else in cloves that contributes to this potential benefit?
There could be. Remember eugenol, that awesome compound we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
Well, some animal studies suggest that it might also help to improve bone mass.
So cloves could potentially help prevent things like osteoporosis. That's really interesting.
It's an area that definitely needs more research, of course, but the initial findings are definitely intriguing.
Okay, and what about those stomach ulcers you mentioned earlier? How might cloves help with those?
Well, studies suggest that eugenol might help treat stomach ulcers and potentially even fight off the bacteria that cause them.
So cloves could potentially soothe those like painful sores in the stomach lining. That would be a huge relief for people who suffer from ulcers.
That's what the research is pointing to, yeah. And what's even more interesting is that clove oil might be effective against H. pylori, a bacteria that's linked to ulcers and even stomach cancer.
Well, the potential benefits just keep on coming. But before we get too carried away, I think it's important to talk about like practical ways to actually incorporate cloves into our lives safely and effectively.
Definitely. The easiest and safest way to enjoy the benefits of cloves is by using them in your cooking.
Makes sense. I personally love the flavor of cloves in baked goods like gingerbread and pumpkin pie.
Oh, yeah, they're perfect for adding warmth and depth to those kinds of sweet treats. But don't limit yourself to just desserts.
You're right. Cloves can work wonders in savory dishes too. I love adding them to marinades, stews, and curries.
For sure. They add this complex, earthy flavor that goes really well with a lot of different cuisines.
For those who are new to cooking with cloves, do you have any tips?
Absolutely. First things first, remember that a little goes a long way with cloves. Their flavor is pretty strong, so start with a small amount and then adjust it to your liking.
Good advice. Are there any particular spice combinations that you would recommend?
For sweet dishes, cinnamon, nutmeg, allspice, and ginger all pair really well with cloves. And for savory dishes, cumin, coriander, turmeric, and cardamom make a fantastic base for a warm and aromatic curry blend.
Those sound amazing. I'm already getting hungry thinking about it. Besides cooking, is there any other way to enjoy the benefits of cloves?
You could try making clove tea. Just simmer a few whole cloves in boiling water for 5 to 10 minutes, and you'll have this soothing, flavorful beverage.
I've heard that clove tea can be helpful for nausea and digestive discomfort. Is there any truth to that?
There's some traditional evidence to support those claims, but as always, more research is needed.
Right. It's always best to check with a healthcare professional before using cloves for any medicinal purposes.
Exactly. But for just a simple, comforting drink, clove tea is definitely worth trying.
So to recap, we can enjoy the benefits of cloves by incorporating them into our cooking, making clove tea, and even using clove oil topically. But we need to remember those potential risks, especially with clove oil, and talk to our doctor if we have any concerns.
You got it. And just like with any dietary change, start slowly and see how your body reacts.
Great advice. Do you have any personal favorite ways to use cloves?
Well, I have kind of a sweet tooth, so I like to add a pinch of ground cloves to my oatmeal or yogurt in the morning.
That sounds yummy. It's an easy way to add flavor and get those beneficial compounds.
Exactly. It's the little things that can make a big difference.
This deep dive has seriously opened my eyes to how versatile and potentially beneficial cloves are. It's amazing how much power is packed into this tiny spice.
I know, right? It just shows you that nature really does provide us with everything we need for health and well-being.
Absolutely. But before we wrap up this part of our exploration, I think it's important to remember that while cloves can be a valuable addition to a healthy lifestyle, they shouldn't be seen as a replacement for conventional medical treatment.
That's a really important point. Cloves are not some kind of magic cure-all.
Exactly. If you have any health concerns, it's always best to talk to a qualified healthcare professional.
Absolutely. They can give you personalized advice and guidance based on your individual needs.
So while we can definitely appreciate and explore the potential of natural remedies like cloves, it's important to do so with a balanced and informed perspective.
Couldn't agree more. It's all about finding that balance between traditional wisdom and modern medicine.
Well said. And with that, I think we'll move on to the final part of our clove exploration. We've covered a lot of ground, but there are still some important thoughts to share as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of cloves.
Looking forward to it.
As we wrap up our deep dive into this, amazing world of cloves, I'm kind of blown away by how much we've learned.
No, right? It's incredible how much history, culture, and potential health benefits are packed into this one tiny little spice.
It really makes you think, huh? Sometimes the best remedies are right there in front of us. We just got to know where to look.
Totally. Cloves have been used for, centuries in traditional medicine? And now modern science is finally catching up and backing up some of those old school beliefs.
And the coolest part is that the research is always moving forward. So we're constantly discovering even more about the potential of this incredible spice.
It really makes you wonder, what other secrets nature is hiding from us?
This whole deep dive has honestly made me way more curious about exploring natural remedies in general.
And that's exactly what we're hoping to do with this show. Inspire a sense of wonder and encourage people to look into the healing power of nature a little more.
For sure. We've talked a lot about the potential benefits of cloves, but it's important to remember that the research is still ongoing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. While there's some promising evidence to support a lot of the claims, we still need more research to really understand how it all works, the long-term effects of using cloves and all that.
So as excited as we are about the possibilities, it's also important to keep a level head and not get carried away.
Exactly. It's always a good idea to be a little skeptical of any health claim, no matter how tempting it sounds.
And of course, it's crucial to talk to a healthcare professional before making any big changes to your diet or health routine.
Right, 100%. They can give you personalized advice based on your specific needs and medical history.
So as we wrap up our exploration of cloves, we really want to encourage everyone to keep researching, stay informed, and make the choices that are best for them.
The world of natural remedies is huge and super interesting. There's always something new to learn.
Today we've gone from the ancient Spice Islands to the forefront of scientific research, all to uncover the remarkable potential of this tiny but powerful spice.
And this is just one small part of Earth's medicine cabinet. There are tons of other natural ingredients out there just waiting to be discovered.
So stay curious, keep learning, and remember, the power to improve your health and well-being could be closer than you think, maybe even right in your own spice rack.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. We'll see you next time as we continue to explore the fascinating world of natural remedies.